Lewis Smith has been helping people get employed for many years. Now, he wants to be employed by the Charleston County School District as a member of the school board to serve the students of the North area. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I speak exclusively with him one-on-one. Lewis.
Yes, sir.
It is so good to see you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I really enjoy your work. You do some good work, by the
I
way.
appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Because you actually stopped me in the middle of the phone conversation that I had with you recently. You told me that you watched all my interviews, and I
Right.
appreciate it. And, you know, a lot of people don't know this, but you were actually running for the North Charleston seat for the Charleston County School District.
Right.
I'm wondering, why Lewis Smith, why now?
Lewis Smith right now. The time is now. We have some serious issues in Charleston County School District. And they transcend all kinds of boundaries, if you will.
Right.
When we look at it, we look at the budget problems that they've had. They lost $18.1 million, and they have yet to come to the community to say how they lost that money. But we all know how they're trying to balance the budget. Look at when they closed Lincoln High School.
Right.
They got rid of vice principals,
Right.
all the hands-on people they've gotten rid of, and it's affected directly the minority community. And I'm thinking, if we're 40% of that population, we should have been given a little bit more love than what the school board has given us.
Yeah.
Also, that's accountability. Now, when we look at the transparency part, we have major issues. When did they talk about closing Lincoln? When did they talk about closing the disability schools,
Right.
if you will? When did it it goes on and on and on. And I feel it's time now for us to make a complete cultural change with that board.
Yes, indeed.
That represents 49,000 students.
Yes, indeed. And I wanted to ask you this at the end, but let me go back right
Please.
now, because I'm wondering, if you were elected, what will you do on day one as member?
Day one, I was thinking about that quite a bit. Day one, I would say that we need to change leadership on that board. Number one, I think we need to go ahead and get a new chairman. Day one, I will do that. The second thing I'll do is I'll go to the place that let contracts to do minority business and say, why are we not getting a large piece of that pie? Do you realize we only get 2% of an $897 million budget, the minority community with contractors? That's absurd. I will go looking at that.
Yeah.
Then next thing I'll do is there's so many things we need to do.
Okay.
I will look at the constituent board and the consolidated board. I will call a retreat so that the constituent board will know what they're doing and the consolidated board will know what they're doing and whether or not those rules and regulations have been crossed. And then I go to the county delegation to say, let's make clear and concise rules. A lot of that those with two different boards has been eroded, corrupted. I'm not using this word corrupted very loosely, but they can't make changes unless it goes to the county delegation. And we have seen a lot of changes. And I'm just wondering whether it's legal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of the constituent board, as you know, Charleston County District 20 constituent board member Tony Lewis is really in hot water after he allegedly threatened members of the Charleston County School District over an sexual allegation at a local high school. I'm wondering, when you think about that incident right now, what is the biggest thing that sticks out in your mind?
Let me say this. I like Tony Lewis. He's a hard worker. And I'm going to say this emphatically. It does not change my feelings in regards to Tony Lewis. I know how the game is played. Until it's played out, I would say I stand by Tony Lewis, yes.
Okay. Let me take you back to Labor Day, because you said the following on Facebook, quote, Team Lewis L. Smith for Charleston County School Board had a fantastic day registering citizens to vote. Thanks Union Local 1422, International Longshoremen Association. We are union strong. What memories play back in your mind of that particular day?
Oh, yesterday?
Yes,
wow,
sir.
yesterday was absolutely amazing. We saw about 1,500, maybe 2,000 people,
Wow.
union workers and families
Yeah.
and kids. And we actually had a chance to be together. And what I noticed is that there was a lot of love, a lot of togetherness. And that's the way it should be. And then we went through all that. And I noticed that we have some unity in this town. And a lot of it, if you go to the history of the unions, especially in this town, you'll realize the tragic history behind that.
Yeah.
You'll realize that when that union was started by freemen,
Right.
they went on strike. Yeah, can you believe that?
Yeah.
And wow, and that time they could have been killed
Wow. Yeah, you're right about that.
or sent to jail.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm always proud to be there with the union because I know with the unions it has helped,
Right.
and it helped the minorities gain that middle class status, gain that thing we call middle America.
Yeah.
And I will always stand with the unions.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Speaking of proud, I know that Kenneth Riley and his brother are really proud supporters of your particular campaign.
Mhm.
You have State Senator Marlon Kimpson.
Mhm.
You have North Charleston City Councilman Mike London.
Mhm.
All of these folks supporting you. When you think of those particular endorsements, what sticks out in your mind?
First of all, I want to thank God. Of course, I thank God. But I think they are saying, look, Lewis, we're going to hire you. We're going to hire you to do a job. And we expect you to do that job. Okay? And I'm saying this unequivocally. I am going to do the job. I'm very blessed to get all these endorsements from all these leaders. And my goodness, when you say some of those people,
Right.
they are up there strong in this community.
Liz Olson.
And, you know, Marlon Kimpson,
Right.
the Raleigh brothers, Mike London.
Right.
My goodness, when I think of them, I think of good, solid, strong leaders. And I'm not going to let them down, sir.
Okay.
Okay, from day one, I've already told you, day one, I'm not going to let them down. I have to represent 49,000 kids. Out of those 49,000 kids, we're looking at 40% that's minority. And when we started thinking about this really seriously, 85% of all the suspension, expulsions, handcuff, what have you, is done through the minorities. And they admit it, sir. So, and you know who they are? Black males. And I'm there to interrupt that school to prison pipeline from day one. I'm going to interrupt that. I'm going to interrupt that. You shouldn't be putting handcuffs on 8-year-old kids. Okay?
Speaking of which, describe to me the following one word: school choice.
School choice. School choice, I'm going to say this right now.
Sure.
Right now, I stand with the National NAACP.
Okay.
I stand with them strong. School choice started off as a good thing. You're alluding to the charter schools
Right.
and what have you.
Right.
That started off as a good thing. But when we look at Charleston County, how it's done, it's turning out to be segregation all over again. We look at North Charleston High. Let's just use that as one blatant example. With school choice, of course, the upper and middle class can get their kids to a different district. You know, the Charleston County District is 1,000 miles long.
Right.
You know, and they can get their kids. But what happens with the minority that don't have the car, don't have the means to take their kids across town? So as a result, now at North Charleston High, you have basically a minority school. And this is happening throughout. And it is sad. It's sad. Also now, when you look at, let's look at the academic magnet school. What did I say earlier? It was 40% black, didn't I?
Right.
And look at the academic magnet school. You know what the percentage there? I think, yeah, I could be wrong, but I think it's hovering around maybe 3%. Something is wrong with this picture, sir. Something is drastically wrong. So I am coming out. I'm coming out and I'm making a stand very firm that I am with the National NAACP in saying that we have to have a moratorium on school choice until we figure this thing out. The best thing is to do, I believe in community schools. All of us have been raised in community schools, and I believe in that. You develop some love, you're caring, and you can develop all kinds of issues. I believe that we should let that be for the time being.
Okay.
Also, when you start dealing with quasi-public institutions, you run into all kinds of problems with taxpayers' money.
Okay.
I believe, like I told you, full transparency.
Right.
I cannot go into a private institution and say, look, let me sit with your board or let me sit and talk, let's say all these what's going on here. And if you look at the charter schools, you see a lot of them are closing and they don't have to give you a reason. I want to look at the total picture, and I think we need a moratorium. I will definitely have a moratorium on charter schools.
Yes. Dr. Jarita Postway, in one word.
I'm sorry?
Dr. Jarita Postaway in one word.
Okay, what about her?
Just talk to me about her. I mean,
I have limited knowledge as far as Dr. Parsley. I cannot, I've been employing people all my
Right.
life. And one thing I've learned is that when you go into a new job, a new situation, you have to look at all the ins and outs before you can make a concrete decision.
Okay.
And I don't think she's been here that long enough. But I'm leaning, I want to see her. The judgment is still out on her, if you will.
Okay.
Also, I want to point out something very carefully and very plainly here, that it seems that to me, Charleston County has a culture of the board, not that the board works, seems to me the board works for the people who, it's to be vice versa. I will not be working for Dr. Parsley.
Okay.
I'll be working for the 49,000 students and their parents. I'll be working for the taxpayers. And when I get in there and I look at, if it's not going the way it's supposed to go, if those contracts are not being let to the minorities, if we look at the charter schools, if we can't disrupt this school-to-prison pipeline, it's going to be some serious issues, sir.
Okay. Speaking of which, describe to me in one word, gun legislation.
Gun?
Legislation.
None. In the state of South Carolina, if you will.
Okay.
I stand with Marlon Kempson, even though he's asking for simple legislation at the moment. I stand with that. I believe that we need sensible gun legislation in the state of South Carolina. We have too many domestic abuse issues, and we have too many killings of young black males in the community. And last I checked, and I'm pretty sure I'm on this one, I have yet to see where a gun is manufactured in the hood. And I don't know whether you've seen guns manufactured in the hood. I want to know where these guns come from.
Okay.
Okay, and I think, I'm not interrupting, I believe Americans have a right to bear arms, but I believe they have a right to be responsible in bearing arms. And this is where I stand with this. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We talk about in a recent comment that you have been employing people for years. As we sit here right now, who is Lewis L. Smith?
Wow. Lewis L. Smith is 65 years old. 65 in November 9, by the way. I would like to call myself a community activist.
Okay.
Okay, I was an educator for a couple of years when I first moved down here. That was the reason I was born here, but I moved back after school,
Right.
and I came down here to teach, and I went from there to raise a family. But I've always been, like I said yesterday at the labor hall, I've always been an activist.
Right.
Since I was 15 years old, I was an activist, and it's just something that's in my blood. Okay, I think to describe Lewis, I believe you would have to use that word, an activist,
Okay.
to the core.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's great to hear.
Yes, sir.
Well, Lewis Smith, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Okay, thank you, sir. It's my pleasure being here.
Thank you.